Some parks see their guests as more than just visitors. They see them as valued individuals, prioritizing their experience and joy above all else. Then, there are the parks that treat their guests as little more than dollar signs where every decision feels like it's driven by revenue. The difference is easy to spot. It's in the warmth of the well trained staff, the attention to detail, and the way a park makes you feel. Do you feel genuinely welcome or merely processed? What side of the fence does Kings Island fall on? Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are and that is who we care about. Hey, let's kick this off by thanking some of our Prestige members. Thank you, Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Hornack, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, and Songstress Miku. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and hey, some tiers even get some free stuff.
So, Ryan, you were recently in Orlando again, annual pass holder. You have Universal, you have Disney World. So you get to travel around to some different parks, not only those, but you've gone to the Dollywoods, the Holiday Worlds,
Yeah.
And others. But when you were there last week at Universal Orlando, you were selected as the annual pass family of the night. Talk a little bit about that experience and how it made you feel as an annual pass holder.
Yeah. So, Universal is coming off of their Mardi Gras celebration, which is weeks and weeks long, like probably about 2 months or so. So they're in their last week right now. But I probably mentioned this probably in the bonus content. So for you guys who didn't know, my girlfriend really wanted to see DJ Pauly D because they have concerts on, I think, Saturday nights. This was a little bit different because they had both Friday and Saturday. DJ Pauly D is from the Jersey Shore. He was one of the cast members. I don't know if he was a DJ on that show or not, but nonetheless, that's his current vocation. She's a Jersey Shore fan. She really wanted to see it. So okay, we planned this whole trip around being down there when DJ Pauly D was going to be performing. The concerts are free, which is just an incredible perk because, they don't exactly have, your Sabrina Carpenters, but they have, people that are maybe were more popular in the early 2000s and stuff, and
Right.
maybe B-list celebrities and stuff, but still concerts, there's at least 3 or 4 on the list that, any individual would be wanting to see. So, Universal's Mardi Gras celebration is it's very straightforward. Starting around 6 or so, they have the characters come out. So they have the people on stilts, the voodoo looking people and stuff. So that's always fun. And then depending on the time that the park closes at 7 or 7:30, they have their Mardi Gras parade. Their Mardi Gras parade is just absolutely incredible. Confetti everywhere. They shoot it off the floats. They had a float that had fire coming off of it and stuff. So, the first night we watched the parade, and we actually watched part of the concert. It was Coco Jones, who, from what I understand, was a Disney Channel star for a little bit. We watched about half of her show, which was an R&B show with dancers and stuff like that. So I didn't know any of the music, but the show was entertaining. We had just landed in town at 5:00 in the morning, so that's why we didn't make it to the end, but then the second night we decided, because we're blacked out of Disney, so we have no choice but Universal, frankly, for the weekend, for Friday and Saturday. But we're like, you know what, we're coming to see Pauly D, but let's see the parade. Let's do that again. That was fun. So we watched the parade. Watched it. For those of you familiar with the park, we're in the Hollywood section. Our favorite place to watch is kind of near where the Bourne Stuntacular is. So where I'm talking.
Right. That's a great, yeah, exactly. I've seen the parade from there. It's a great spot.
That's where they have the event stuff. That's where they do the confetti. They do it there, and kind of in the New York section over by the Mummy. That's where they'll do the confetti and the fake snow and all that stuff, depending on what parade it is. So, bonus note for those of you visiting during Christmas or or Mardi Gras. That's where you want to be. But so we started working our way toward the front for the concert yard, and she and I actually, it's kind of an ironic reason as to why we were selected, because uh, we I'm not I feel like I own enough stuff right now, so I try not to buy stuff from like Orlando every trip because I go kind of often. But they had these like Mardi Gras shirts, like they got special like AP t-shirts and stuff like that. And um they had one that was kind of cool, and I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll buy it. So I bought it. We had gone to this is before the parade. We decided to go to the car, which is no short trek at that park. And I was
Not
like,
at all.
you know what? I was like, this is probably going to be our last time seeing the parade for this trip. I'm going to switch into this shirt. And Aaron did the same thing. And then we just put like, because I hate carrying bags around, especially if we're going to go to this concert. You don't want to be carrying a shopping bag. So we're wearing these AP shirts just because, like, hey, let's wear a Mardi Gras shirt at the Mardi Gras parade. Anyway, so we get back, we watch the parade, we're heading up, we're near like the Minions Cafe towards the front of the park, trying to figure out like where we're going and stuff. Really, really nice associate comes up and just starts making conversation with us. And he goes, "Oh, you guys are annual pass holders." Be like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Oh, do you come often?" We're like, "Well, we come about every 3 months or so. We're from the Cincinnati area, but we just love this park, and we're coming down." And he's like, "Oh, like, are you so you came for the parade?" And I was like, "Well, she really wanted to see DJ Pauly D, so that's kind of why we're over here." And he's like, "Stay here, I got an idea." Okay. So he kind of like, I guess, shot a text message saying like found him or something. He's like, "Follow me." Takes us on to the concert yard and puts us in this area that was gated off, which it wasn't in the very, very front, but it was still like a fantastic view. Here's our view. Oops, that's not it. It was it was not far from the stage, but the point is the thing was completely packed. And we had this like gated area around us. It was us and another two people that were also like the annual pass holder family of the night. So they chose the two of us, brought us up front, and I was like, you don't have to do this. It's fine. It's like, I appreciate it, but like whatever. And they're like, no, 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 no. You guys make the effort to come all the way here, from out of state. Your annual pass holders. We love our annual pass holders. Those are our most loyal people. So this is the least we can do for you. So enjoy the show. I'm like, okay, cool. So I actually tweeted it out, and Universal replied like, "Oh, we're so glad you got that opportunity. What a great
Oh,
way to end
wait. A park replied to you?
the park." Yes, some parks
Okay.
do reply. Some
Okay.
parks, some parks do reply to me and to you.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I can only think of a few that don't, but yeah. So it was. I had fun. It's again, not my kind of music. I'm not a big like pop music person. The show was fantastic. As you see here, a lot. I'm a big confetti fan. This seems to come out a lot when we talk about this parade in particular. But he had like tons of confetti, lights, lasers, fire, CO2 compression. So very, very cool. But the important part was that Erin really, she wanted to go, and um, she's still been talking about it. It's been 5 or 6 days now, and she's like, "I can't believe we got to see DJ Pauly D." So it's those kind of memories that make it worth it.
Yeah, there's little touches. Those are the kind of things, you're talking about. She's still talking about, 5 or 6 days later.
Yeah,
But you're going to remember that for a very long time. A Universal season pass, the annual pass. Let's face it, it's not cheap. Uh,
no.
so for you, how did that make you feel as an annual pass holder that you were recognized? You were told, "We love our annual pass holders. Come with me." You're getting something you did not expect to receive. You thought you would just, be where you were located, to
Mhm.
watch the parade and that. So talk about that a little bit, about how that makes you feel as an annual pass holder.
Well, I guess the best thing that sums it up, Aaron turned to me and when we're up front and DJ Pauly D's on stage, and she turned to me and said, "We'll never not be annual pass holders to this park." Uh, I feel like it kind of linked the connection between us. I feel like there's no way, we talk about seasonal parks and, season pass holders, they don't spend any money and they're entitled and stuff. But just imagine how bad that is for somebody that comes once in their life versus somebody that comes, 2 or 3 nights a week, who lives in Orlando, lives in Kissimmee, something like that. They probably spend way, way less. Yet here we are, and this employee comes up like, "Hey, nice shirt. You
Hmm.
guys are annual pass holders? Like, what are you here for? Oh, you're staying for the
Right.
concert? I got an idea." They also, we didn't get to do it, but they have annual pass holders get to ride on the parade floats too. We tried to do that, but that they opened that up to everybody, and you can register for it, but we couldn't get in fast enough because it's so popular. Because we only had a couple nights that we were available, but um,
So
I
there
just
you feel welcomed, right? Not processed. You feel welcomed at Universal Orlando.
The impression that I got from the team member, that's their term, is team member, not to be confused with cast member. I have a tendency to mix those up and offend people. Team member, the team member that was, he did a very good job of portraying like that he was flattered that we were there. That we, you mean you have the premiere pass, but you don't come every night? That's so cool that you love our park this much,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. So I yeah, I felt really, really appreciated. I felt like part of the park, you know?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a seasonal park, Universal Orlando, Disney World, Disneyland. I mean, season passes are expensive,
Mhm.
and it's something that I mean, you and I both come from very modest means, so we go to invest in these kind of places. I mean, it really does make a difference. When you have all those little touch points, and you feel really good about what you've invested in when things like that happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, she said, "We'll never not be annual pass holders," and it seems like oftentimes the temptation is to have a bad experience, be like, "Well, we're not doing this next year," and you could not have had a more opposite reaction to it.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that I felt like I was their guest. Um, I I felt like I was wanted there. I was appreciated there. Uh, you know, y- I understand, being business insiders as we are. We understand that I'm far less valuable to them from a dollar sign standpoint on that day than somebody that came from Brazil or came from California or Texas or whatever. But at the same time, I think that they also see the forest through the trees in terms of maybe an annual pass holder that lives in St. Cloud or Kissimmee or something comes 3 times a week, and maybe they'll eat a meal or whatever. But over the course of a year, they definitely spend more money.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a forest through the tree situation where a lot of parks see like, oh, their per capita today is $7.50, while the ticket per capita is 34.89. So we're going to concentrate on the ticket people. Well, at the same time, 34.89, that's their one visit, but the season pass holder will buy a keychain, a T-shirt, a food item, or something over the course of the 8 months that the park's open, and end up spending way more. That's just my kind of like financial theory behind it.
Yeah. Now you went to Walt Disney World. Did you feel the same kind of thing where the cast members there, they make you feel welcome from the time that you come into the parking lot, you go through the turnstiles, the different attractions, the food service, merchandise, wherever you go. Did you feel like they really went out of their way to make sure that you were acknowledged, that you felt welcome?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is you'd think that Disney, of all, because we know that the annual pass thing is something they kind of got to do, but at least the facade in the parks is way different from that. First of all, they have their annual pass lanes open for getting into the front of the park. Um, the cool part is it's not about the shorter lines. It's not always a shorter line, but anytime it's somebody's first visit to the park, they you have to scan your magic band or your pass or whatever, and then do the fingerprint thing. Well, if you
Right.
got 5 people in front of you that all like don't know that they have to do that, and there's a 2-step process, it ends up adding 30 seconds per person, and then you waited in line for 5 minutes. These people tap and go and tap and go, so it goes really quickly. Um, Universal does not have that. We'll talk about this more in the bonus content, but the facial recognition thing, you don't even need to scan your pass anymore. So it's not even necessary. They just scan. But one thing I did notice about Universal particularly was they scanned my face. It came up, and the person would say, "Welcome, Ryan. Welcome, Aaron. Welcome, Don." So that was one thing that I thought they were going to start doing at Kings Island and the Cedar Fair parks, legacy parks, when Prestige came out. Like they'd scan it and be like, "Oh, thanks for being a Prestige member," but I don't think that they appreciated you being a Prestige member, to be honest with you.
Well, let's shift gears real quick.
Mm.
Let's talk about Kings Island, Six Flags parks. You brought it up, a few times that it feels sometimes like you're a burden to the park if you're there more than a couple times during the season, or if you use your dining plan twice in one day. Sometimes that's just the
Abusing
vibe
your
that
dining, you mean abusing your dining plan by using it
you,
twice in one
but
day?
but that's just kind of the vibe that's given off sometimes, is that,
Sure.
oh, they're, they roll their eyes, they're here again, why are
Yeah.
they here all the time, kind of a thing, instead of, this is great, they want to be here every day, they want to come 5 6 7 days a week. um, what are some of the things that Kings Island could do to make it feel like, you are generally welcome, you're not processed when you come through, uh, you know the front gate, and you're spending your day at the park, and because they see you all the time, it's just kind of, oh, okay, they're here again.
I feel like you're asking me a loaded question because I don't think that we can be like, oh, saying hi to you when you come in or this or that. I don't think that's going to do it. I think it'll take a major cultural shift for that to be a thing. Remember, there's somebody walking around. Well, they're hardly ever at the park itself because they work from home quite often. That was saying, "Oh, the season pass holders are as adorable as they are predictable." That person should not work for the park
Yeah,
anymore.
when there's some complaints, I remember that when there was, something was brought up on the season pass holders Facebook group. By the way, they're approaching 100,000 members, so
Yeah.
congratulations to Chris
Too bad they
Hughes.
don't really have a meaningful relationship with the
Yeah,
park because of Senor as adorable as it is predictable. Dude,
but
knowing
anyway,
this
yeah,
is real quick.
but I mean, I just wanted to congratulate, Chris and all
Mm.
the admin team there for the phenomenal job that they do, and providing a service for a lot of Kings Island pass holders. But um, you mentioned, the parade that you saw at Universal. Kings Island has Grand Carnival returning this year. Have you ever been approached to to be on one of the floats at the Grand Carnival parade, or could you see them this year coming up to you saying, "Hey, Ryan, great to see you. Do you want to be on the float tonight?"
I'm not sure if that's an honest question or a joke that didn't land, Don. I honestly, it's because of certain individuals within the ranks, and I'm not saying everybody. There are great people that
A
work
lot of
there.
great people there. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I honestly, every time I scan in or you scan in, I often wonder if it's going to be like, you need to go to guest services, and we want to talk to you about something you said on the podcast. You said that tater tots were burnt. That's not true. You're affecting our sales. Or you said they're particularly upset about how I wasn't happy with the Prestige Pass. That's the best part about all this thing. They're mad at me because I've been dumping on Prestige Pass, but it's not like I didn't have it. I had it, got screwed, got bait and switched, and then when I warn people like, "Hey, I don't think it's a valuable product. This was my experience." They're mad at me rather than realizing for themselves that they handled things poorly. But that was the number one thing, honestly, where it's like they the prestige pass stuff, they put it on sale, and I get like it's probably not economically sustainable to have bottled cokes and bottled water and stuff like that. But this just the slimy way that they handled it, of just quietly removing it and then removing it from the website. The truth is, everything would have been fine, and I would have not been so harsh on it if they'd sent an email to all the people that bought Prestige and said, "Hey, that email was not supposed to go out. This is the actual product you're getting. You have until like Labor Day to come to guest services if you want to downgrade to gold." They were not willing to do that. It's you were stuck with it. Hashtag no refunds. Terms were subject to change, as we were told, and then you were stuck with it. And then almost everybody downgraded, and then only a few people. Again, like, I don't want to say everybody who bought it's a fool, because people have their reasons. But I noticed that the people that are in the VIP lounge when I walk past them now are not the same people that were in the VIP lounge in 2022, 2023, when everybody bought into it. But that was a perfect cultural example of we can get away with this because we already got their money.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that when you made your post on social media about being selected as the annual pass family of the night, that Universal acknowledged your post. You and I both know that over the past 18 months or whatever, anytime Kings Island makes a post and you and I either we make a comment, oftentimes very highly positive in nature, most of the time, very highly positive in nature, that if there's 67 comments, they'll reply, or give an emoji filled response to somebody, or like at least the comment to everybody but you, me, and maybe 3 or 4 other people that they associate being part of our group here. So how does that make you feel when you see 95% of the people being replied to or getting a like from the park, but you get shut out every time?
Well, there's an old adage that a poorly written compliment is still better than a well written complaint. Uh, um, I I don't think that the people behind replying to that stuff are genuine anyway. Um, just the honestly, like, we're to the point now where, since it's so funny, they'll have 20 comments, and like they'll either have a like or a comment like, "Can't wait to see you at the park," and then you and I are nothing. It's like comical at this point, which means that we are moving the needle somehow there, because they're either offended, or the way that I see it is we exposed them. We exposed the people that feel that way about the season pass holders, and the people that I don't even think it's season pass holders. I think it's anybody that visits the park. I think that it's if the individual had communicated that it's as adorable as it is predictable, probably would have said the same thing, even if it was an individual ticket holder that complained about something. Just, we're so good, we're perfect, and anybody that has any kind of adversity to their day is wrong. It's that's
You can't be in certain roles. You can't be somebody that's sensitive
Mhm.
to criticism in that industry. You just can't. I mean, you have to look at things like that as a way to get better. Someone took the time to say. Now, there's oftentimes, you see the standard, everything's a 2-hour wait. Well, we know that's not true. I waited 2 hours for every ride. I only got to ride 5 rides all day. You see those kind of complaints. But you still have to look at it as there was something that provoked them to post. That it wasn't a 2-hour wait for everything, but you do know something didn't go right during their visit. So
Sure.
you want to be able to find out what happened.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that. It's forget the 2-hour wait. If everything was 45 minutes and everything's a 2-hour wait, that means they had a rotten time because everything was too long. So is it an operations thing? Is it like a capacity thing? Like, what was different that day? Okay, we're busy. But they can't write off like, okay, we got the 10 busiest days of the year, the lines are going to be long.
Right.
That's a lot of people that visit that may never come back. 30,
Yeah.
40,000 people that just nope.
But instead of, ignoring them or making the comment, that's as adorable as it is predictable that they're going to complain, find out what's going on, reach out to the person, hey, saw your comment. You want to talk about your visit? Or if it's early in the day, you reach out. Are you still in the park? We'd
Yeah.
like to, catch up with you. Okay, what didn't you get the ride? Well, I didn't get the ride the beast because it broke down. Well, let's take you up the exit ramp again. Just little things like that, little touches, could go a long, long way. But Ryan, if you get selected to be on the Grand Carnival float, or they ever, give you a like, or reply to your, something you comment on one of their posts or something like that, we'll do a breaking news episode, because it would be, breaking news if those things were to happen.
Yeah, and I'd give credit as credit's due. Where if I got to ride on a float, and I'm not advocating for that, by the way. That's the example you brought up, but it's like, hey, that was a really cool experience. I really appreciate it, and so I mean that's what I would do. But um, it's I'm not sure who picks those people. It used to be the park ambassadors. I'm sure if some of the emoji filled people chose, it would be the 200 follower and under club. Uh, but
And we've seen some of those people on the floats.
I haven't, but I've heard. I think you told me that you saw, which is fine. I mean, they've got as much of a right to have that opportunity as anybody else. But I'd like to think that it's like pretty genuine, because it's well, again, it was park ambassadors who would just randomly grab people. But I don't know who chooses
I've seen,
now.
people from entertainment, you know, uh, round people up. I've seen the park general manager,
Yeah,
Mike Kuntz, ask people if they want to be part of it. So, I mean, they are out there, walking around the park with all that. But, Ryan, it's great to, hear about your visits to Orlando all the time. I'm always, living those visits vicariously through you, because I can't go every 3 months like you do,
I mean, you can. You
because I'm not an
choose
annual pass
not to.
holder.
That's right.
Yeah,
That needs to change.
right. I'm busy going to a lot of parks within the region, pretty regularly. Almost last summer, it was like every weekend I was somewhere,
Yeah.
within the region, and that, traveling around. Um, but let's move on to a segment we call buy or sell.
Buy or sell. Um, with an additional 1,600 feet of track work on the Beast in advance of the 2025 season, the Beast won't be included amongst the rides open for Winterfest this year.
That's an interesting submission we got there. With the Beast, you looked, that's what happened with the racer. A lot of track work. Uh, all of a sudden it's able to to operate during the winter months when it wasn't before.
Yeah.
Um, so he's saying Winterfest 2025. I'm going to buy and say they give that a shot.
I
It'll be a
I'm
train
ha-
operation for
right.
sure. But I mean, you're running Mystic Timbers, you're running the racer. With the track work that they're doing on the Beast, it's certainly going to maneuver around some of those turns a little bit better. So the colder temperatures, it'll be a little bit kinder to it. There still is that one spot as you're coming back into the station, that last dip before you come back in the station. That's always problematic when they're doing, test cycles early in the year in the spring, when the park first opens. When it's a little bit colder out, might be in the 40s or something in the morning. So that part I think is still probably a little bit problematic, but I'm going to buy that they might give that a shot.
I think it's a possibility, but the thing is, the fortunate thing is that that dip that you're talking about is at the very end of the ride. So
Mm-hmm.
you talk about having the best possible chance with like the lubrication and stuff being warmed up. If it went right out of the station and then dipped down, like that would be a problem. But
That'd be a problem,
fortunately
right?
with this, I would say it's possible. Now, do they want to? But I'm really torn about it, because we keep on like hearing like layoffs and budget cuts and stuff like that, but they're adding a lot more to the legacy Six Flags parks, which to their credit probably needed it more.
Yeah.
But they could really use another major ride open at Winterfest. Um, as far as a possibility, I would certainly buy. I wouldn't
Yeah.
put
And
money
there's
on it.
less hills than, I mean, the racers, it's hills throughout the ride.
Yeah.
That's a little harder to operate in the winter months, late November, December, than the Beast would be, because the Beast, it's built on speed. There's not as many hills.
Yeah.
So I can see it being something that, they would definitely consider. I think the track work enhances that possibility. I think it comes down to, would you be able to open the season the next year with all three trains ready to go? Probably not. You could probably get two ready, but
Mm.
we'd have to see. But I think that was um, a great submission that we received there about Dapper by ourselves. So I'm going to buy that. I think I would not be surprised if we learn later this year that the Beast is part of the Winterfest lineup.
And you'll probably hear it here first if it is. Now, one thing I want to clarify is I don't see the equation between the 1,600 feet of track being replaced and it being open for Winterfest. I think if it is open for Winterfest, it'll be maybe coincidental, with the exception of the fact that they don't need to do work on it like they did.
That right. That was one of the problems was they've had a lot of extensive track work over the last several years on that, and they pretty much in the last couple of years now, 3 or 4 years, have pretty much gone around the whole course. Almost 7,400 feet of track has been addressed. So I think if it's just smaller areas that they could take care of in January, February, March, maybe it is open. I don't
Yeah,
know, but I think it's something to think about.
I really want to see this, but I don't want. So I hate to like bastardize the Beast night ride thing, but for Winterfest, I don't like how a lot of the rides aren't different. I would love to see out there in the woods have green and red uplighting on the trees, or you can't really do displays. You're going too fast, but creating an environment, I think that
You
would be
could
really
definitely
cool.
you could definitely have some fun with that, and really, I like what you're talking about there with the different uplighting and that on the trees. Something to think about. But we'll circle back to this, as we get into June, July, and we start to learn what Winterfest might look like for 2025.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to some Six Flags headline news.
All right, the Six Flags headline news for this episode is King's Dominion, Richmond, Virginia area, is set to officially debut its newest thrill ride as Rapterra takes flight on the park's opening day, which is March 29th. Standing 145 feet tall and stretching 3,086 feet long, Rapterra is the tallest and longest launched wing coaster in the world, serving as a centerpiece of King's Dominion's 50th anniversary celebration this year.
And they've had media day, and we've heard some reviews.
They did have media day. Now, we know that the folks that were invited out, we're talking the influencers and the different, coaster enthusiasts, um, pretty much good reviews that were posted, online, social media, the different fan sites and that. But that's expected. You've got the Six Flags content creators policy, so they're not going to say anything that wouldn't be positive, or they're not going to be invited back the next time. I
Yeah,
think
so
people pretty much know that.
you can't trust the reviews yet.
You can't trust
Have
the
you heard
reviews yet. No,
anything but
I
yeah,
have.
so you've heard stuff on the side lately?
I've had conversations with more than a dozen people that attended, and it's kind of a mixed bag, Ryan.
Really?
Yeah, some of them really liked it. Um, Others said, it was a little disappointing. It's a little cumbersome, a little rough, especially if you're sitting on the outside on either
Yeah.
side. They thought it bounced a little bit too much. We saw that when they were doing the test runs. People were talking about that. So, it was interesting. One of the people, in fact, they were very highly positive about it on their Facebook page. But then when they were talking to me about it, they were like, it's good. I like the launch when you first take off, but the rest of the ride, it's a little bit bumpy. So I mean, with the content creator policy, I mean, I think across the board, you just have to discount whatever's out there from those that attend media days. Now, if it's during, the park's open, daily operation is just, guest reporting, what their experience was, that's going to have a little bit more credibility than any media day events moving forward.
Yeah, because you can't trust what is said, because it's basically required. If you want to come to media day, then you have to say positive things. Those words are not in the content creator policy, but they're between the lines of the content creator policy.
Yeah, it says that you have to create highly positive content to be on the list. So I reached out. I was looking for a photo of a ride that's opening out of Six Flags Park, and because of our podcast here, it was, and I was told, well, you come from a dark place. I can't send that to you.
Do we need to improve the lighting on the podcast?
So I was like, okay. I said, well, what's a dark place? I'm like, all right, I can get someone else to shoot the photo for me, and I can do the story later. I don't, you guys don't want to, send me the photo that you approve and that you like. Fine, I'll get another one. Hands are going to be up and everything else in the photo then. So it's just the way it works with that. But
my favorite part is how, to some people, I'm blackballed because I'm associated with you, and to other people, you're blackballed because you're associated with me. It's a pick your poison. Which one of us do you dislike more?
I don't know. You know what, though, Ryan? I really think at the end of the day, if you are going to do a podcast like we're doing, doesn't matter whether it's about, Kings Island, the Cincinnati Reds, the Bengals, Cincinnati Zoo, whatever we would do. The only way you're going to have credibility with it is if you are, genuine, authentic with your thought process with it. You're sharing with your audience, how you saw it, what your experiences were. You have to do that, or your podcast isn't going to last very long. So I think that's something that, and we've seen the comments, that come in with the questions, and just other times when people, run into us at the park or, elsewhere, where they do appreciate the candidness of our podcast. And like I said, if you really did a score on it, the sentiment from our podcast Tower Topics here, it's going to be over 90% positive sentiment. And that's tremendous. Most of the time you're just hoping to get like around, 65, 70%. You're pretty happy with that as a brand. But, for us, I mean, if this was being measured and monitored, and the different words that we use and that all get factored in, and, it spits it back out, it's going to say that the sentiment's over 90% positive about Kings Island with what you and I do with this podcast.
Yeah.
And I would think the park should take that.
Right. But you can't, with that 10%, it's just as adorable as it is predictable. But that was one of the things that was like, you can destroy your own credibility with stuff too. Like there were on Reddit, which Reddit people who are Kings Island subreddit fans are not fans of Tower Topics. We've come to find out
5 or 6 people,
the vocal minority, as with all things. But they're like, if they hate the park, why do they do a podcast about Kings Island? And it's like, think about your statement. Think about your question. If we hated the park, why would we do a podcast about it?
Ryan, you and I mean, anybody that knows us knows we do not hate the park. We love the park. We are, top ambassadors, for Kings Island. We sell more tickets and passes for Kings Island than just about anybody, with the things that we do, through Tower Topics, through our own social media posts, through, the blog articles that I write, which you talk about on, Kings Island Central.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I sell a lot of product.
Well, it's not just that. It's I remember right when we were kind of turning the corner of like, okay, people know who we are. Because, we started off with like a base thing of KIC people and people that knew you through Kings Island. And, it's expanded out to people that were not completely associated with. But it was first maybe the Bubble Wand, I guess, last Winterfest when I had people uh, saying to me in person, like, hey, thanks for that recommendation. That was a great episode. My kid had a great time with that Bubble Wand and stuff like that. And then the other thing was when we did the episode about the cakes and the sweet spot, I was talking to an associate and I was just kind of making conversation and was just like, do you sell a lot of these? Because I was actually talking to Aaron and I was like, I wonder how many of these are sold and how many of these are thrown out. And I was talking to an associate and I was like, do you sell a lot of these? And they're like, we used to sell, we'd sell them, but man, there was a podcast that talked about them, and then we just got a rush of them, and it's like, okay, it was like, what podcast is that?
And we've had a number of people, that have reached out to us, whether it's at the park or through the emails or messages through social media, letting us know they appreciated us talking about a new menu item. They wouldn't have known about it, or you talk about the sweet spot merchandise. So different things like that. So it's little things, and it's one of the things that makes me feel good about doing this podcast is we're creating awareness for fans of the park about things that they might not have been aware of, and they would have missed out on if we hadn't brought it up. So I think we do good work, Ryan.
I think we do great work, Don. We should do each other's annual evaluations sometime.
We should. We should, yes. Yeah, great. Okay, great work. Yes. All right.
Great work. 5 out of 5. All right.
So Ryan, tell me about Tower Topics t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts are available this year in a wicked green. Speaking of Universal Studios and their properties, available in a wicked green. They're $22. It includes shipping. All you have to do is reach out to us. One method to do it is through Twitter, Tower_Topics, or the preferred method is preferred by me, is to send Don an email, donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. And, just put something like Tower Topics t-shirt in the subject. Shoot him your interest as well as your t-shirt size. He'll send you the QR code, which is all done through Venmo. Once the transaction goes through, which takes no time, he'll ship it to you. It takes really not very long to get the shirts. However, it seems like we get a lot before things like meetups and stuff. So order now if you want to have one in time for coaster stock. We'd love to see a lot of t-shirts there for coaster stock. Lots and lots of them.
I've had a few people that are planning to attend that event that have told me that they will proudly wear the Tower Topics t-shirt at that event.
Yeah, we'd love to see them at coaster stock, but $22, that includes shipping. Price has not changed, although the back end price has always been super high. So we do that for you because we love you, our members and our subscribers. We love you and appreciate you. All right. Let's move on to the listener questions. First listener question. Jeff from Inglewood. He said, what would Don's bracket Final Four look like if he filled out the annual Coaster 101 Park Mania? I have that graphic here.
I always love this, what Coaster 101 did with this. It created a lot of engagement. Love seeing the different parks promote this on their social media channels. It's disappointing when you see some of the parks not necessarily doing it. But it's fun, it creates a lot of engagement. But if I had to pick my Final Four from the different regions, I would go Kennywood and Dollywood.
Okay.
Would be on the left-hand side of the bracket. And then on the right-hand side, if you're watching on YouTube, it would be Hershey Park and Holiday World.
Sorry, I'm studying this bracket now. God, it's such a hard decision because, how do you choose between Kennywood and Fiesta Texas? They're both wonderful, and then Cedar Point's in there, of course.
Right. I mean, there's it's difficult. to choose, I would think that how the other parks use this, if they promote it on their social channels, and that's going to help them move on. I haven't been able to keep up with it this week to see exactly where all the parks are right now, who might have got bumped out. But
Yeah.
the question was, who would be my final four, and as I did my bracket here, I worked through this. I came up with Kennywood, Dollywood, Hershey Park, and Holiday World.
Cool. I'm glad that question was for you and not for me. Because I would have trouble deciding, like, Epcot and Dollywood, like, that's apples and oranges, but both of those are just some of my favorite parks out there.
Life is full of tough decisions, Ryan.
I know, porque no los dos. Let's see. The right side is a lot more parks I haven't been to, but then again, Kings Island and Worlds of Fun. I mean, Kings Island easily, and then you got it's inherently going to be Kings Island versus Universal Studios, which is David and Goliath right there. I suppose what you're looking for, because if you're exclusively a coaster person, Universal isn't the best. That's studio, so that's not like Velocicoaster,
Exactly, it's
you
what you're
know?
looking for. When you go to a park, what's the purpose? Where's your interest? Are you a show person? Are you a foodie fan? Is it just about the coasters? Do you like the tie-in with the water park being included? So there's so many different things that have to factor in when you're voting in this contest. But Coaster 101, I mean, phenomenal job with this. It's become an annual thing for them.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people will say, it was, Millennium Force is what put Cedar Point on the map. I think this contest is something that put Coaster 101 on the map.
Well, yeah, and when we had, Andrew on the show, he talked about how, like, parks were getting involved in it and stuff. So I think that's
Hmm.
really cool that they would, play along
You
and
love
stuff,
seeing the
and
yeah, you love seeing the parks play along, and scrolling through social media. I've seen different parks saying, vote for us in the Coaster 101 contest. So it's a lot of fun, and it's something that I'm glad that it took off the way it did, but it would not have if parks hadn't supported it the way they did when this was first introduced.
yeah.
All right, the next question comes from Zeke from Middletown, Ohio. He says, "Are you more pessimistic or optimistic about Kings Island's future as a Six Flags park?"
In the short term, probably pessimistic. I'm saying, like, within the next 3 years. After that, it'll probably overall be a net positive. Uh, they're gonna be able to, uh, you know, you talk about the synergies and stuff, and I don't think that they're gonna be able to have that, millions and hundreds of millions in synergies that they talked about. But Dennis Spiegel kind of hit the nail on the head as far as everything from, their purchasing of Coke to straws and stuff like that is all going to be cheaper. So all the prices are going to be dropped down. Um, Probably not going to pass that savings on to the consumer, to be fair. But with that being said, the higher margins they have, the more that they can do as far as festivals and rides and shows and stuff like that. So it's going to take a little while to get their feet underneath them. But after that, I think that it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I choose to be optimistic because it costs the same.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, do I have the next? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Andy from Mainville, Ohio. He said, when you hear the word goob, do you automatically associate it with Chad Showalter, park spokesperson?
Uh, Goob.
I
Let me
don't think I've
think a
ever
minute
heard
about
that
that
term
word.
before.
Yeah, let me think about that word. I would say no. That when you think of Goob, you think of someone that a little, you know, clumsy, maybe not having everything, kind of put together, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But typically, Goobs are kind of fun to be around, so I say no, I do not associate that with Chad Showalter.
I think they call that a sideways compliment, Don. Like, Don, you're really fun for an old guy. Like that guy. No, I don't really, the term goob isn't something that's in my vernacular, but
But I think
that's
about like, thinking now about like, growing up in the neighborhood and some of the kids and then who would have fit the description of a goob. And I'm thinking, well, they were, or at least fun to be around, that kind of thing,
yeah.
fun to hang out with. So no, I do not associate that word with him.
Yeah, but thanks anyway, Andy.
All right, next one comes from Ricky from Huber Heights. That's in Ohio. Future home of a Bucky's, by the
I
way.
was going to bring that up. Someday it'll have one.
Someday, yes. He says, if you could travel to Mars or Uranus, which one would you choose?
I love the word Uranus. Um, well, Uranus is a gaseous planet, so you can't step foot on it. I would definitely say Mars because it would be cool to be one of the people that like try to discover either life on Mars or like historic life on Mars or something. So Uranus, I mean, I guess we don't know enough about Uranus to say it definitely never had life, but I mean, the chances of Mars seem to be pretty good. So it'd be cool to be there. Plus, it's like, you can walk around and, see what has been like rendered from, the Spirit and Opportunity rovers and so on. But I would say Mars. What about you?
I'd go with Mars. I think the candy bars would be better there.
Yeah. Well, you could open up the first ever Mars candy bar store on Mars. Now, what kind of store would you open on Uranus, Don?
I don't know. I think with that one, I think the joke's kind of write itself.
That's it should well, you can determine for yourself what kind of stuff they sell, but the name of the shop should be The Jokes Write Themselves. If you've got your own listener questions, send them to Don. Don't send them to me. Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Send your question. It can be about anything.
Anything. You can also send us a direct message on our X, Tower_Topics. We get quite a few questions there as well. Or, you can tag us on X. The thing about that is people get to see your question sometimes before it appears on the show. But, if that's the best method for you, we'll take it any way that you want to submit it.
Yeah. So send the question, anything you want. As long as it's appropriate, I suppose. Your first name and the city you're from, so we can kind of report that on the show, and we would possibly address that in a future episode. Don, I'm going to pitch this to you on the air, but we have the ability to actually have people call and leave voicemails.
Oh yeah, I love that idea.
You want to try that sometime? I texted that to you, but it was like months ago in the middle of a text thread, and I think you kind of missed it. But I think we should do that. I'll arrange for that, and then the next time we record, like next week's episodes, I'll put the phone number up and stuff because we can play them back. People can give their from what I'm seeing from like much bigger podcasters than us. People don't send them all that often. So what I'm thinking is it wouldn't be an every episode thing, but it would be more like we would do an episode with podcasts after like with voicemails after about 3 months of collecting them. So yeah. So
yeah, I love that idea. Somebody asked me if I put it like in an MP3 or something, could you do it by voice? So yeah, that's a possibility, and something I was going to talk to you about too. So I think we're on the same page there. I think that would be a lot of fun to hear people asking their questions that way. And I think it also, people can see us if they're watching, the episode, they hear us. So I think it'd be great to also hear people actually asking these questions as well. Because sometimes, the way that the way you and I interpret it, it might sound a little bit different if it's by voice.
That's true. Yeah. Very cool. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir. That goob is Don Helbig. This is Tower Topics.